Now we're going to talk about a little imaginary friend we have called money. So firstly, I know we all like money, but the truth is money is not our friend. Secondly, it doesn't really exist. What I mean by that is that money is a concept. It's created by a consensus of perceived value. What we accept as money today, like the plastic card in your wallet, the paper notes and metal coins, they're just tools used to represent conceptual value, agreed upon by a network of people who use it. Physically, it doesn't exist because we don't use real money. We use fiat currency, which is a substitute for money. And the moment we stop believing in it, the value is gone. So the existence of money depends on you and me agreeing on its exchangeable value. That's the understanding that after you exchange it with me, you're going to be able to exchange it again with another merchant who has what you wish to buy. So it requires a lot of confidence in total consensus. So if you imagine your local shop stopped accepting your money, is it still worth as much to you? Sadly, no matter how many times you take money for dinner or how close you hold it at night, that bond you think you have is a lie. Money is completely devoted to the bank that printed it. Like everything in this world, the more of it exists, the less it is worth. So as they print it, they burn a hole in your pocket and the value makes its way back to the bank. The richest people in the world know this, and so they don't keep money. How did we decide that a 20-euro note is twice the value of a 10-euro note, also a piece of paper with ink printed on it, when they are the exact same type of and weight of paper? The truth is, we have been playing with monopoly money since 1971. Even according to Wikipedia, states and countries' governments generally have a monopoly on the issuing of currency. A monopoly is a dominant position of an industry or a sector by one company to the point of excluding all other viable competitors. They lead to price gouging and deteriorating quality due to the lack of alternative choices for consumers. They concentrate wealth, power, and influence in the hands of one or a few individuals. This currency doesn't belong to us. It is a monopolized industry. There is a documentary you can watch about this. I highly recommend it. Mike Maloney is the narrator. It's called Hidden Secrets of Money. It's about 10 episodes, 30 to 40 minutes each. You could easily finish it in a weekend. It's a fascinating story, probably the best education you'll get in your life. So first, let's correct ourselves on what we call money. We'll get to cash later. Money was originally established as a form of commodity, such as gold or silver, having a physical property as a metal, which means it has many different possible uses. That's where it got its value. Currency was originally backed by that commodity, meaning it was a receipt for the commodity, exchanged with the bank that agreed to keep your gold or your silver safe. Fiat money is government-issued currency that is not backed by any physical commodity, such as gold or silver, but rather the government that issued it. The value of fiat currency is derived from the relationship between supply and demand and the stability of the issuing government, rather than the worth of a commodity backing it, as is the case for commodity money. Most modern paper currencies are fiat currencies, including the US dollar, the euro, and other major global currencies. There's a video in this blog that explains how the dollar standard happened. It's linked in my blog if you want to find it there, or send me a message, I'll send it to you. The United States benefited, right, from strategically staying out of World War II. You know how the war went on for so many years and the US really didn't get in until the end. And that was because they benefit financially from the war as long as they stay out of it. If they'd stopped the war much sooner, they would not now have the federal fiat currency that all other fiat currencies are dependent on. All wars are about a transfer of power between the people and their government, or from one government to another. We're now in World War III. Just as the US now sits on the economic throne as the World Economic Reserve, setting the rules and standards of global economies that are pegged to their dollar, soon they'll be replaced by another who will determine the new rules. Some call this a psychological or spiritual war because we see no armies. But all wars have used psychological and spiritual warfare to weaken their people into submission. Human armies are just the usual weapon of choice, but bioweapons are just as effective at sending nations into a state of fear, irrationality, and submission to disruptive power transfers. This is a game. This is all a game. Society itself is a game. We're the players, made up of winners and losers and cheaters. We're forever competing and forming alliances throughout this game, and we can have different or aligning goals. Most of us play by the rules, but whose rules? We call the compliant herd sheep because they play by the rules of the new game. If we're honest with ourselves, though, we were all sheep. We were all sheep not so long ago. We who consider ourselves to be free and awake now, we were always playing the rules of a corrupt game. According to the game we were born into, the goal of the elites for you to own nothing and be happy started a long time ago with money. Since money was replaced by fiat currency, the money we've earned hasn't actually belonged to us. Firstly, because the bank owns the currency, and secondly, because before you get your hands on it, the government takes part of it and takes responsibility for it. If the government can take your rights, your freedom, or your money, they were never yours to begin with. Without you giving any consent or having any authority on how they're expensed, your taxes are taken and all employers are forced to pay them in order to have any contract to employ you. This money is then supposed to be spent on public services and benefits, but we have no say on what public services we fund with what's supposed to be our money. Repeatedly, we see it wasted on programs that the public doesn't support, such as extortionate printers that can't fit through the door, the water meters that were installed and never supported by the people, or TDs giving themselves fancy raises while leaving our most valued public servants on the back burner. Now, I'm not advocating that we completely do away with taxes. That system can be completely revolutionized, but I do see the benefit of taxes. I just do not believe that a central authority needs to have control of it. So later on, I hope to demonstrate how a technology that exists today can solve that problem. That topic's for another article that I look forward to writing. But for this article, I'm just simply saying that you and I currently don't make the rules, and those who do set them in their favor. And now those rules are changing again. Why? Partially because of the invention of that technology I just mentioned. Since then, a new game has started, which is designed so that you can quit and start a new one. That's no fun for them, because they want to be able to cheat, and they don't want you to be able to leave. So they're starting a new one. So as you're probably aware, the job passports are simply a gateway to a social credit system. They need compliant people as beta testers because the beta testers will start with the highest points. To get points, you need to impress people with more points than you. So you'll have to impress compliant people. I've been in a social credit system. The blog that I write to you from is essentially a social credit system. It's opt-in. I'm not dependent on it. It is not the only currency that I use. And so that's the massive difference, right? I don't have to be part of this. I choose to be part of it. And the rules are not set by any central authority. They're set by our community. So how I achieve a reputation is based on a collective community, not any central authority of the community. We don't have a central authority. My aim for this article is just to help you envision a future with a completely different type of money and to demonstrate what makes that type of money a threat and what makes that type of money a shield from threats, right? Because there are many different ways that this type of money can be designed. It can be designed by a central authority, or it can be designed by somebody who releases it out as a decentralized network, like Bitcoin was. We as a society, we can't survive without money. Currently, we're using a currency that is designed to eventually fail because it is not backed by any physical commodity like money is supposed to be. That documentary that I recommended before tells the history of how real money keeps getting stolen and replaced by fiat currencies. All fiat currencies throughout history have failed. The average life expectancy for a fiat currency is 27 years. Ours has been fiat since August 15th, 1971. That's only 50 years out of 5,000 years of currencies. The World Economic Forum called the current state of the world the perfect opportunity for a great reset. One of their steps is disrupting and transforming the world is to bring on a cashless society. In economics, cash can mean any money that is readily used and doesn't involve any form of credit. That would include the money on your bank card. But to common folk like you and me, we tend to use the word cash to refer to the money that's not in the bank. But what does Dr. Evil, Klaus Schwab, mean when he promotes a cashless society? So this is something that he says. If everyone were connected to an end-to-end e-payment infrastructure, a cashless environment, There would be transparency in money flows, whether it's international aid or private investment. If everyone in the chain were connected digitally, you could see where the money went and how it was spent. So clearly, the privacy aspect of cash, which is when money isn't in the bank and is transferred without any records of those hands it's transferred through, that's what the World Economic Forum would like to extinguish. They would like all of our transactions to be traceable and disclosed. Anybody who thinks there's no transactions that should be kept private are clueless to the deficiencies caused by monopolies. Amazon has been accumulating multiple monopolies because of all the data they collected on their own merchants and their transactions. Private transactions enable healthy competition in the world of commerce. Without private transactions, the wealthiest will easily take advantage of all the best deals and wipe out all the competition. Another thing the World Economic Forum says is $1.26 trillion is effectively stolen from developing countries due to corruption, bribery, theft, and tax evasion. If we could reclaim that money for those countries, we could lift those 1.4 billion people above the poverty threshold. While they like to sound virtuous and righteous in their reasons for wanting total control of people's funds, I would be extremely concerned for your lack of critical intelligence if there aren't alarm bells going off as you hear that. Having said that, this isn't completely new to us. The only difference between the taxes we're forced to pay through the banks and what he's suggesting we should be allowed to do is the infrastructure that enables our transactions. There are a few things we can't stop, and we have to accept it as inevitable in order to move forward prepared. We can't stop the European Central Bank from flushing our economy into hyperinflation by printing more currency to save themselves. We can't stop the digital euro project, which started last month and will be a complementary currency to use in addition to the existing euro until hyperinflation renders it worthless. We can't stop the European Central Bank from issuing this new currency as a reward for their desired behaviours, replicating the social credit system of China. What we can do is we can be ready. They're building an economic system for us to depend on, like they already have an economic system we depend on. On that system, they will continue to set the rules and change them as they please. One of the steps to escaping this cult is going to be a really tricky one. We will build our own economic system. We will set the rules and ensure those rules facilitate freedom. The key difference between their system and ours will be a little thing called decentralization. Centralization refers to that organizational structure where decision-making power is confined to a central authority or top management, and the subordinates need to follow the instructions of their seniors. With decentralization, there is no central authority. The decision-making power is distributed across the network. There's no point in fearing a cashless society. It may have to happen temporarily while we abandon a currency that we can't control. Our existing currency is owned by the banks and we have no control of the value. The value is based on supply and demand. And as the banks continue overprinting and our fiat currency starts hyperinflating, whether we want to use cash or not will be irrelevant. The inevitability of the collapse of the euro doesn't worry the ECB, who are getting their replacement ready. The real danger is having no alternative currency to rely on other than the ECB's digital currency or their social credit system. Because once our existing currency crashes, we're not going to have any choice unless we have set one up. Of course, there is unquestionable value of having cash for our currency. Originally, though, cash was just a receipt from the bank for them to safely store your commodities, your money. But if we're to transition to a new currency, unless we're all going to become extraordinarily skilled at melting and minting metals as we go, then during the transition period, we may be without a form of cash for some time until new trustworthy banks are set up who can provide us with receipts for our money. The last thing we should expect is for the cash of our government fiat currency to continue to hold value just because we who have no control of the supply want it to. Let's face the real problem and solve the cashless problem after we've solved the currency problem. I'm going to end it there for now. There's a link below to the article where I tell my story of how I got involved in these decentralized networks, explains how they work a little bit, and then the video after that will explain this process that I believe we need to reignite ourselves and establish some real leadership within our communities.